Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports back into the video today, and today I'm going to be talking about the Houston Texans potentially trading away John Metchie, wide receiver, who was played with the team for only one season, was drafted in the 2022 NFL draft, but unfortunately he had leukemia right out or a couple months after he got drafted and missed the whole 2022 season. Then 2023, he gets the all clear right before the season. He joins the Texans and gets to play for the first time in his career, and he wasn't that great, to be honest, but, I mean, it's really tough to make a comeback like that as, coming back from basically cancer, leukemia, and, he had 30 targets, 16 receptions, 158 receiving yards with 16 games. I just, honestly, I don't care how he plays. I think it's just an amazing that he's out there on the field. I mean, look, I'm going to go to a guy in Buffalo like Damar Hamlin. Like, I'm not a big fan of him, and I don't think he's a great football player, but I see a lot of people hating on him and how he's on this field after basically dying on the field this season before that. So the amount of respect I have for John Metchie that he was able to recover from leukemia and go back on that field, and even though he didn't play the best, he was able to play and be a part of the team, which he wasn't before. I have a lot of respect for that. And that's why I don't look at a guy like Damar Hamlin with Buffalo and think, what does this guy do? I know he did cost the Bills some games. I remember the game against Denver, a Monday Night Football game, where he costed them the game. But I think for guys like John Metchie and Damar Hamlin and other guys throughout all sports who come back from, a disease like leukemia or as far as cancer potentially, it is amazing to see them make the comeback from that disease. And I'm a big fan of John Metchie, though, and he didn't have the strongest season, of course, but he was still recovering, and I think he still has a lot of potential. And honestly, I think if he was in his second season and this is what he did, I'd be okay with the Texans giving up on him. Let's say, even if the leukemia happened, let's say this was his second season with the team after trading for Stephon Diggs, and this is what you've got from him. All right, let him go. Hopefully he finds a new team. Wish the best of luck to you. Get on out of here. But that's not the case. John Metchie is only on one season. I think with a guy you selected a second-round pick on, and if you watch I've watched the clips from him playing in Alabama. He has potential, and I've watched the clips of him playing at Alabama. He has potential at the wide receiver position. He just needs to get playing time, and he also just needs, he needs a full season of health. I really think that, last season he wasn't fully healthy, but I think next season definitely could be the case for him. And I'd really like to see him stay for another season. But of course, the Texans are in a tough position now with 7 wide receivers essentially, because they have obviously the 3 main guys in Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Also that 4th wide receiver who's going to be. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a better number 4 wide receiver in the NFL than Noah Brown. I mean, Noah Brown had 600 receiving yards in a limited playing time last season. C.J. Stroud at times made him look like an all-pro wide receiver, and now he's the number 4 guy. So you got Noah Brown, you have Noah Brown, you have Tank Dell, you have Stephon Diggs, you have Nico Collins, you also have Robert Woods, you have Xavier Hutchinson, and you also have John Metchie. Who is the player to go? I mean, honestly, if I was the decision maker, I think the odd man out definitely could be Xavier Hutchinson, just because if you think about it, if you look at guys like Robert Woods and John Metchie, who could be at the top of that list and potentially being let go by the Texans didn't use, they used a second-round pick on John Metchie. They paid Robert Woods, I believe it was like $8 million a year. It was a 2-year contract. So they invested into these 2 guys. Now Xavier Hutchinson on that end, as much as I think potential talent he has, I think he really showed that in training camp last year. I watched him play at training camp last year. He has potential, But it's not like the Texans used a high draft pick on them. It's not like they used a second-round draft pick on him like they did John Metchie. They used a sixth-round pick on Xavier Hutchinson. He might be the odd man out. But I think the guy that has to go, in my opinion, is Robert Woods. He's a veteran wide receiver, and he's not going to get a lot of playing time with having Diggs, Dell, and having Noah Brown. So he's that. If let's say the seven best wide receivers on the roster right now, that were on the roster last year, and add Diggs to the list with those 6 guys that were on the roster last year. If you look at it like that, Woods is the wide receiver number 5, which at times last year, at the most he was either wide receiver 4, but most of the time he was wide receiver 3. I mean, the Texans had Tank Dell and they had Nico Collins, but to start off the season, Robert Woods was one of C.J. Stroud's favorite targets in the first couple weeks of the season. Early on, it was Robert Woods and Nico Collins that C.J. Stroud liked to throw the ball to. Tank Dell didn't really get it going until week 3 for the Texans against Jacksonville, and then after week 3 against Jacksonville, he just trended up, but Robert Woods and Nico Collins were 2 guys that he loved to throw the ball to early on in his career in his first 2 games, and but as the season went on, and as Noah Brown got more involved in the offense, got healthy, but there were guys in and out of the lineup. Robert was either that wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 4. But I think it'd just be smart to let go of Robert Woods, because the fact is you clear cap space by cutting him. You gave him a 2-year, $16 million deal, so you clear probably $7 or $8 million in cap space by letting him go. And you don't have to give up on a guy or two, thinking about John Metchie or Xavier Hutchinson, who you're at least. I'm not going to speak for the Texans, but I know a lot. Me and a lot of the Texans fans believe and think that both of John Metchie and Xavier Hutchinson have a lot of talent. And if Diggs is only here to stay for a year and Noah Brown is only on a 1-year contract, why get rid of guys like John Metchie or Xavier Hutchinson who, are young and have future in this league? I mean, I think it's stupid to let go of guys like them when you guys have guys like Diggs and Noah Brown who could essentially only be here for one more season. Obviously, I think Nico and Dell are in the long-term future plans for the Texans, but I think those 2 guys are really the only 2 guys I could say for sure are in the future long-term plans as wide receivers for the Texans right now. Stephon Diggs, look, if you wanted him in the long-term plans, you would not restructure his contract and wipe out 3 years. The Texans are seeing this as a rental. Maybe if the Texans come really close to the Super Bowl, maybe they re-sign him to a 1-year contract, but I don't see that happening. Noah Brown definitely could re-sign to another deal with the Texans next offseason, but he's signed to a 1-year deal. Don't know if this might, if he has a breakout season and he's a wide receiver 4 for the Texans, he might want to have an opportunity to go and get a better chance with another team, to play more with another team, even though he has a great quarterback like C.J. Stroud. So I'm not sure about those 2 guys in their future with the Texans. Robert Woods is also a free agent and is getting old, and he might get cut now. So I'm not sure on those 3 guys at all in the future. But then you have your young guys, and the young guys that we all believe in, I think they believe in, and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, John Metchie, and Xavier Hutchinson. I just think with the fact of 3 of your 7 wide receivers are going to be free agents next offseason, you can't let go of the young talent in John Metchie and Xavier Hutchinson. So I think if anybody has to go out of the 7, it has to be Robert Woods. It has to be. Because he clears cap space and you don't have to get rid of young talent. But no, to answer the question, absolutely not. You do not trade John Metchie. I just saw him playing in a video with Sketch. What's up, brother? I just had to do that. I just saw him playing on a live with it was Sketch streamer was on his stream. It was him. It was John Metchie. It was John Metchie. It was Sketch. What's up, brother? And it was also C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. They were playing at UCLA, the UCLA football field, and so, yeah. And John Metchie didn't look bad in that live stream. And honestly, I think if and this is just obviously I think worse has happened in the NFL. Players getting rid of players, but I think if the Texans, I think if the Texans were planning on getting rid of John Metchie, I don't think we'd see him as close with C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs hanging out. Because honestly, like, Stephon Diggs, if John Metchie gets traded or cut, Stephon Diggs would be the reason of that. I mean, they're hanging out, they're in a good place, and obviously we've seen worse happen. But I think John Metchie's job is safe, to be honest. But we'll see. I think worse has happened. So I can't just say, oh, he was hanging out with so-and-so, Stroud, Dell, Stephon, and Sketch. That means his job is safe. That doesn't secure anything, but I think that makes me feel more secure that he's not going anywhere. But let me know your thoughts on the Texans potentially trading John Metchie in the comment section, and peace out.